Hi, I'm Maria Quattrone, your host of the Be the Solution podcast. And today I welcome my guest, Joseph Consul. Joe's been a practicing attorney since 2009. He focuses on real estate zoning, land use, real estate purchase, sale, and investment, as well as general business law. He is skilled in creative solutions. I love that solutions to real estate problems and a trusted advisor to local developers, realtors, title agents, mortgage brokers, and all folks in between. He's licensed in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey and strives to bring a spirit of collaboration to all the work he does for his clients. He's also a member of the Philadelphia and Delaware County Bar Associations and the Guy G. DeFory American in Court. Additionally, he's a legacy club member of Philly Man, Jersey Man magazine, as well as a proud member of the Philadelphia Justinian Society and National Italian American Foundation. In his spare time, Joe enjoys fantasizing about international travels, which he just came back from Ireland with his family. He was on vacation there. And he loves seeing local music, baking bread and pizza, yoga, and of course, our Philadelphia Eagles. Joe, welcome to Be the Solution podcast. How are you?
Hey, Maria. I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, great. I'm fantastic.
Oh, nice. Glad to hear it.
Another day.
Yeah, so thanks for the kind introduction. All that stuff's true. I'm finally recovered from jet lag. I was away for almost 2 weeks, and we got back Monday night. We flew out of Newark, back into Newark, and the previous 2 mornings I was up in the 3s because of the jet lag. But this morning we all slept in, which is great. So you've got the best version of me in terms of appearing in this podcast. So
we're always best when we come back from a much needed vacation, right?
Yeah, my wife's a teacher, so I don't get a lot of time during the year, a night here, a night there, but we really have to wait till the summer. So we're doing that. We're doing a week at the shore, and that's kind of our summer.
I love it. It's great. It's important to take time. It's important to take time out for the family and to regroup, refresh ourselves. And I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, you're probably like me. I'm assuming that a lot of agents are. I never fully shut off because every time I see a phone number I don't recognize, it could be a new client or something of that nature. And probably also like you, the folks might call a few people, and if I'm the first attorney that picks up and sounds like a decent human, that might be what gets me the case. And so even on vacation, I picked up a couple calls that I thought sounded promising, and it is what it is. But I was not like actively working, but I did some recon.
Yeah, awesome. Well, good for you. So let's just jump right in. We're both in the real estate space, and I'm curious your take on everything's going on the real estate side with NAR and the commissions, and I'm sure you have an opinion on it.
My opinion is like on the one hand, the what's the right word? It did appear like there was some monopolization happening. Like this is like from, if I just dropped out of the sky and was presented with what was going on in terms of how the commissions were standardized and things like that, I would say this does appear to be that there could be something going on in terms of there not being a lot of ability to wiggle around with these commissions and things like that. But that's from a position of if I just fell out of the sky. But having been in the space for 15 years and just having been a human that has been paying attention to real estate, it's not exactly like that, because like I understand as well as anyone who's not actually doing it, the amount of work and effort that goes into selling properties. So it never struck me as extremely unfair, or that the public was being taken advantage of in any kind of a way by the way things were being done. Now, if I was starting from scratch with a magic wand, like if the world, everyone's memory was white blank, I'm not sure I would have gone about it the way that it was. But I also don't have a better solution. So I don't know what makes sense. Obviously, I'm not the kind of, class action lawyer that was pressuring all of these organizations, all these brokerages, but the brokerages are very well heeled, and they obviously did the math and read the writing on the wall and understood that they were going to be subject to judgments and things like that. And so they paid out. There's no other reason why there'd be so many high value settlements unless they believed that there was, by the letter of the law, actually something that was happening that was, potentially actionable. And so on the one hand, it didn't feel unfair, but on the other hand, I understand that it probably was running afoul of some laws, or else I don't think there would have been so many settlements, because the numbers were so high for a lot of the settlements that it seemed like it wasn't just a go away number. It was like a very calculated and negotiated number to settle lawsuits. So had you thought about that? I mean, this is just me having not been prompted for this question, just, kind of talking. And so that's what my thoughts are. But you all bust your butts a lot, and I see it. And so the payouts, maybe every once in a while you would get lucky with being a buyer's agent, where you would do very little work to make a lot of money, but that's not the norm. And so it didn't feel unfair to me. So I don't know if you agree with me or not, but yeah.
I think anytime you have directive from a government and a DOJ is brought into something, I think it's a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sellers should be able to pay however they want. I don't think they should be dictated to whether they can or can't pay somebody.
Yeah, right. So like that's the part that I can't think of a better solution, because to give them free rein right away would almost guarantee that it would just slip right back into the way it was being done, which, like I said, didn't feel unfair, but must have been afoul of the law. And so, or else, why else would they have paid out so much money?
Well, it's a witch hunt, right? It's a witch hunt. And you have to, as you know, as an attorney, you have to, either continue to spend millions on the lawsuit, or you put more in hopes that this is it. And like anything else.
Right.
I mean, there's so many industries that, like, let's take law, for example. Right? Don't you guys get, maybe not you, but when you're doing a suit, and let's just say it's personal injury. We'll go with that.
All right. I know about as much about personal injury as anyone who's not a lawyer. That's not true. I know how litigation works.
So like you take a case and you're like, okay, well, I get a third of whatever the payout is, right? 33%.
I think
that's a pretty standard amount, right?
That is, as far as I understand. Yeah. It can even be.
So that's like, I don't even know if that's even negotiable, because most attorneys I know, they get 33% of that.
Right.
Anywhere between 30 and 40% is what my understanding is.
Right.
Wow. We're asking for 3% to be paid, which we split with our broker, and the other side gets 3% or 2.5% or whatever the hell it is that they split with their broker. And you look at the average sales price in Philadelphia is around $300,000. So let's say the commission was 5%, it's 15,000, 7,500 divided by 2 is what, 3,750 gross.
So I also, have been, due to the nature of my work, exposed to a lot of wholesalers and off-market buyers. And if you want to talk about equity stripping, a lot of those deals, if there had been an agent there instead of these folks, and a lot of those guys are great clients of mine and very ethical, but I've seen situations where you're stripping, 10, 12% of the property value just by virtue of being, the middleman. Whereas had an agent been involved, it would have been half of that or less, and would have been done, in my opinion, much more ethically and above board. So I don't see the system as having been broken, because how many agents, I mean, you probably know, like, how many agents are super wealthy and how many agents are like just raking it in off of $300,000 houses in Philly? It's not that many. And so
less than 1%.
Right. Exactly.
Most real estate agents in USA live, if they have to rely only on their real estate career, don't even make the median, the average income of 52,000. That's what the public's not even aware of. And the people that were on that, the jury, a lot of them didn't ever even own a home.
Is it true?
Huh. So it's really a shit show. And I think that it's unfortunate because, as the way I look at things, commission's baked into the sales price. So, Joe, you're the seller. I represent you. Okay. When do we all get paid?
Upon your success.
Right. But where's the money come from?
I guess typically it's the allocation of funds from a mortgage company on behalf of the buyer that gets distributed to everyone at closing. So the buyer, I guess, is the short answer.
Buyer. So let's just say they're paying cash.
Okay.
Let's just say they're bringing cash to the table. Who ultimately pays commission?
I mean, the buyer. Sure, if you think about it like that.
Without the buyer and the cash, there's no deal. You don't get your money out. Your house is only worth what it's worth, what a buyer is willing to pay for it.
Yep.
And the only way anybody gets paid, you and including me, is at the time of closing when the buyer brings funds, whether that's cash or a purchase money mortgage, and the rest of their, for their closing cost. And so without that happening, the only way for the seller to get money from their house is to do a cash out refi. There is no way to sell a house without a buyer bringing money to the table. So prices of homes aren't going to go down because of this. What's going to happen? Buyers will get probably poor representation. Some buyers, because maybe if you can't afford to bring money to pay for a buyer agent and the seller's not going to pay you, maybe less buyers will be buying homes. Maybe less buyers who are first-time buyers will be buying homes.
Right. I've been in a couple of war rooms with brokerages, asking me questions about what they could or couldn't do and how they could work with buyers, what relations they could have with them. And it doesn't seem to be like there's any set path forward yet. I don't know if you've seen any different. I'm sure that you've thought about it being as knowledgeable and experienced as you are, but I don't, even as recently as a week or two ago, I've been in war rooms with the larger brokerages, and it doesn't seem like anyone's got their hands around how they're going to handle it. So it's scary in that regard, for sure.
For sure. I think that as far as I'm concerned, I will still talk about to the sellers, property gets sold based on demand. Demand is created by more buyers coming to the house. The more buyers that come to the house, the more demand on the house, property, vacant land. I don't care, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
The more demand on the house, the more buyers, the more money the house sells for, period. Less buyers that come, less demand means less money in the seller's pocket. So if you want to create more demand, make sure that it's seen to as many buyers as possible. And where do buyers come from? Agents bring them. Any buyer who's serious about buying a home has an agent, or is looking for an agent, or gets an agent, a realtor. That person needs to be paid just like everybody else in America needs to be paid. And so I'm going to continue down the path, like I always have, of explaining that to the seller of why it's in your best interest to still offer a buyer side commission.
Have you had any sellers question that or say like,
oh yeah, I've had people be questioning it since March.
And just say like, oh, I don't have to pay them now, right? And then you're just like, well, yes.
Yes, you don't have to pay them and you never had to.
Right, exactly. Like,
so the issue becomes, yeah, technically nothing's changed. The issue becomes is if you don't, nobody's working for free. And I explained the whole thing about commissions being baked in.
Mm-hmm.
And the smart people clearly understand it. It's not that difficult to absorb that information.
Mm-hmm.
If you can understand at a 5th grade level, you can understand it. And then if people want to go on and argue about it, which I really haven't had. I mean, I've had to explain it multiple times to some people.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think that's where the value comes in, Joe, right? So you represent clients in real estate transactions, whether it's on the zoning side or it's on the, representing maybe a commercial seller or buyer, or a lease, for a commercial lease, something like that. You explain what your value is. If there was no value to Joe the attorney wouldn't have a business.
Of course.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I try never to sell myself in that regard. And it's usually the clients who you have to convince that you have worth that then question it, later on down the line. But, from my firm's perspective, it seems like, having done it for as long as I have, that being involved in transactions is usually beneficial in the sense that people want lawyers to be a gatekeeper. People want lawyers to give advice. And
most of your clients, though, are more sophisticated than the normal public, right?
I agree. And so
you have a different level of person you're talking to. We're talking about the normal public who buy a house once or twice in their lifetime.
Right. But I also think in the same regard, like you guys are providing a level of oversight on a very important asset or a very important purchase for people that may be overlooked in terms of the value that is being brought. And that's why I made the comparison earlier with wholesalers and things like that. I think that it's hard to say there should be no regulation, because in the world of no regulation, people are being tricked into selling their properties to folks for much less than the fair market value. And you can say, well, it's a fair market, so they can sell it for whatever they want. But in a city like Philadelphia, that ignores the fact that a lot of people are extremely unsophisticated. And so someone offering them a bird in the hand, a pile of cash that's more than they ever saw in their life versus.
I'm not a fan of some of the practices. I'm okay with wholesaling, in the sense of wholesaling used to be you buy the property directly from the seller. You close on it. You either fix it and keep it as a rental, or you fix it and you flip it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the true essence of it. What's been done is assignment of sale. Yeah. Assignment of sale, in my professional opinion, is where the slippery slope has happened. And now a seller, and I just had to talk about this earlier, where I was at the closing table, the HUD comes and they're getting $50,000. The seller is selling it for 300. That is a disgrace.
Yeah, that's what, 30% or something.
That's a disgrace.
That's what I was mentioning earlier, like where it's
Especially when we could have sold it to that seller. We could have sold it for that seller for more money.
right.
And the
Exactly.
seller was under the impression. And the thing is that they never closed on it. It was a double close. And more importantly than that, if you put a contract with somebody, you should be able to close on that if you can't sell it yourself. If it isn't assigned and you can't sell it.
Right.
And the thing is that the people don't have any money. It's like the lowest of the low in real estate, assigning properties with no money in your pocket. And right now there's a bill that's out there. It's in the Senate. It's passed the Senate. Now it has to pass the House. That to really practice wholesaling, which is what I'm discussing. You will have to have a real estate license.
I've had a lot of clients come to me with a copy of that bill saying, "Is this going to kill my business?" And there's no answer to that yet. But I guess like my point is more so, is it taking the good and the bad in terms of the government saying we want to protect the homeowners against something?
Well, I don't think about this. Like, what's wrong with having a license to do it? And you still can do it. But disclose and have a license because you really are practicing real estate. Then why do I have to have one?
Right. Right. So that's
the same thing. Why do I have to have one then?
Right. So that they're doing the same exact thing, right? They're selling it to somebody else and making money, only it's completely unregulated and not ethically bound by anything. Whereas you're not forced because it's the right thing to do, to be completely open and transparent with all of your clients. And as a result of that, you could lose your license if you did otherwise. Whereas I understand other groups don't have that hanging over their heads, or not even hanging over their heads, but as there's no guiding ethos to how you should act and behave. Whereas,
and the reason behind all of it was all of the little ladies or men or people that got a couple things. One, their equity taken from them because they just didn't know any better. Or two, they got stuck back with a property that they didn't move because they put it under contract with them for way too much money. And then I have to clean up their messes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many. This year, I've had at least 6 of them.
That's insane.
More probably, actually. Some I didn't take the business.
So they'll come to you and say, "I thought this LLC."
I had it under contract. The wholesaler came. Well, they finally figured out what they're called. They came. They told me they were going to they were going to buy it. 3 months they tied me up. They kept stringing me along. This and that. This and that.
That's tough.
And some people will say, "I put a offer in another house. My house now, they want to know why it hasn't closed. This house hasn't closed because I need to sell this to buy this." I mean, morally, I think it's morally wrong.
Right. And I think a lot of ethical codes, like the lawyer code that I'm bound by, I think a lot of that is just the distillation of pretty obvious morals. But I guess when you're dealing with a lot of humans, you don't always get the brightest of the bunch or the most morally sound. So that creates the need for ethics and very specific, how you can handle folks' money and where, what you can put in which account, and, things that seem like minutia, but it really make things more honest and open. And so, yeah, I think it's a good thing in the real estate world too.
Yeah, I think if we all led with more transparency, things would be a lot better.
Fair.
And I think also, I lead with a lot of transparency, and people get mad at me all the time.
I think that is an excellent quality in a person. But one time I was in LA during law school. I tutored for the LSAT, so I helped folks with the law school entrance exam, and I was flown out by a company to do some training in LA. And at one point they said, you're one of the first people we've had from the East Coast, because it was kind of a new company and I did well in the entrance exam. And so they kind of picked me just like because they saw my score, and they said, are you mean, or is everyone from the East Coast, blunt as you're being? And it would just ask it in a weird way where I had thought I was being perfectly polite, but I think that candor is rare in certain society, in certain sects of society, and I always growing up in an Italian family, you don't get a lot of punches pulled, and I've been through therapy for certain parts of that, but I think being honest professionally is really important, and it's worked well for me because I'd have no problem telling clients, I don't think this is going to work out. I did that today with a client. I just, rather than take their money with some expectation that things might work out for me, I would rather not make, the money, despite the fact that that's what feeds my family, and be honest with people and just say, hey, if another lawyer might take this because they will take a case that's a loser, but I am telling you it's a loser, and that sort of thing. So yes, I don't know what the question was. I was just riffing, but there you go.
Well, that's the thing. It's that, excuse me. It's that, the transparency, but it's also think about, opportunity costs, our own opportunity costs. So if we spend time working on something that we know we have a slim chance of it ever getting done, for whatever reason, whether it's the client's fault or it's the deal's fault or whatever, we could spend time with somebody who we know that we can help and we can assist. And I think that there's, not that, we don't want to be the solution for everybody, of course, but we can help everybody. We can. Some people just don't want it, or the deal doesn't allow us to do it.
Yeah, that's maybe more accurate. And I'm at a lucky point in my career where I can say no to things when my heart tells me that's not the right situation for me, which, wasn't always the case. And I just have a very, robust client base now that values me, and I get a lot of work. So, yeah.
So you didn't always start like that. So what do you think, and from your perspective, are the top 3 things that have made you successful?
I'll put luck in there at number 3 but I guess I mean luck in the sense that like no one's actually lucky in success. I mean, you can be born with a certain level of luck, but I feel like being open to opportunity creates luck. So I was at a municipal land use law firm in New Jersey out of my clerkship. So I graduated from Rutgers in 2008, their law school in Camden. I clerked for a judge for a year, and then I got hired by a law firm in New Jersey that was doing municipal land use and zoning stuff. And I just got the impression early on that there was going to be a ceiling to my potential success with the firm. And so I started planning what I was going to do next. And after almost 4 years, I did transition to starting my own firm, but I had no mortgage. I had no kids. I had nothing. So I was able to be really lean, and I was able to go out and meet people every single day and allow the situation to, if I had to stay out and smoke a gross cigar with somebody till 2 a.m, just to be in their face and try to get business. That's what I was doing. And I say luck, but in those kinds of networking connections, I met some people who are still good clients today, who neither one of us had, a pot to pee in, so to speak, 15 years ago. They've become successful developers, and I have been brought along, and in their eyes, I've been referred to other good business. And, even though along the way, I might have been one of the lesser experienced people they could have afforded to hire, they gave me chances, and I didn't blow those chances, being given opportunities to help folks with larger zoning projects, or, I've done $15 million purchase agreements, and people just say, like, I know you won't blow it. And it's almost like by trying to be as honest with people as I can, it feels like people will trust that I will do what it takes to find success. And I have a lot of folks that were my mentors. The Bar Association I had been set up with some mentors that would allow me to take on larger cases and have folks as, guiding lights to say, like, hey, Joe, don't forget this, don't forget that. And over the years, I've been able to then, build that base of knowledge. And a large piece of that luck was my partner, Scott, spent a lot of time at a large firm. And then when he joined up with me at the end of 2016, he, had the better part of 10 years experience. And so he really brought a level of professionalism and legal acumen to my side of the table, which has been always just very client focused and being good at talking to people and bringing in business. And so we've kind of been on a pretty unstoppable trajectory since then. And again, like, I use the word luck, but I feel like just being out there and putting myself in the position to meet people has, I guess, been what's led to my luck.
Well, we make our own luck by doing the work.
Right. Showing up and just trying to be true.
The more I work, the luckier I get.
Right. Exactly. That's a great way to think about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm from a blue collar family. My dad is an electrician, and my mom teaches figure skating still, and she's 70. But
oh, God bless her.
But I didn't have a lot of connections or anything like that, so I had to figure it out myself.
I know what that's like. I didn't have a lot of connections either.
Yeah, you can cry about it or not, or just go out and do it. And I wasn't. I knew I wasn't.
Believe it's part of the process. Excuse me. The obstacle is the way.
You want to talk about meditation? I mean, that's a great meditation quote.
The obstacle is the way, and nobody can do it for you but you.
So yeah, luck, partnering up with good people, hiring right. I've got an amazing support staff. That's probably number 2. And I don't know. I guess luck maybe is number 1. I don't know what the third thing would be, but I think I talked enough about.
I would say people hire people because they know, like, and trust them. So right. I think that's a big part of it, Joe. I think people like you and they trust you, and then they get to know you, and because you're out there and doing work, you get lucky.
There's not like a different version of me too, which is something that you notice with a lot of lawyers, where there's like lawyer Joe and there's regular guy Joe. I never wanted to have a job at all, So when I had the opportunity to build my business, I thought, like, I'm going to be successful as myself, or not at all, because I just want to be me. And that has turned out to work for me personally, because I don't know, I'm pretty easy. Yeah.
Well, as I have so many sayings, Joe, and that I just, they're not mine, they're from other people. But, be you because everybody else is taken,
I like that one too.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. With me, I'm just me. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. You kind of know always where you stand with me.
Yeah.
I don't pull any punches, like, I tell you like it is. And like, I had a potential seller, and he asked me some questions like, so it's going to be, we're going to put the house up on the market, but the summer's slow. So should we wait till after the summer? I said, not sell it for 6 weeks or 8 weeks and just let the house sit there vacant. It's a brand new rehab.
What do you hope to accomplish besides carrying costs?
They're like, well, days on market. I go, well, if it's not priced right, days on market, it'll be days on market regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, this year, you always have to look at things, right? So this year you have, I think, the first, second, third, fourth is Labor Day. Then you have back to school. Then we got 3 weeks. Usually we have the holidays, high holidays, Jewish holidays, not till October 2nd to 12th. So that is going to be a 2-week lull, because it always is in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
We have a pretty large Jewish community. And those 2 weeks, and a lot of people, or at least in the real estate world, right? A lot of stuff doesn't happen during those 2 weeks. So now you got 3 weeks to sell, and then it's almost Halloween. I said people want to be closed in their house before Thanksgiving for $1 million house. In the house closed for Thanksgiving, which means that they have to be closing by, let's say, end of October, early November. So I give the advice of what the advice should be. What am I gonna say? Oh, wait, like, why? But then they got mad at me.
It's like, well, that's not what I read or I saw, or when I Googled it, it said this and that. And it's just like, well, I don't know what to tell you.
But it's constant. Like, people, I feel like saying, well, let's see, do I listen? Okay, so they're investors, so they bought and sold a few things over their time, but I guarantee you they haven't sold 3,500 plus homes. So is your ego that big that, and I said, so I'd have a client that you can't listen to a professional.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, believe it or not, Joe, even in this day and age, they don't want to hear it from a woman.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And I think I've seen it in the law, so it must exist in your industry as well, that everyone feels like because they have access to the internet, they have access to better knowledge than someone with experience. And it's often not the case. There's like a huge gulf between what you can Google and what the reality of a lawsuit is. You can Google the fact that, oh yeah, you might win this lawsuit because here's what it takes, but can you internalize that it's a year of your life? It's 5,000 phone calls. It's sitting in another lawyer's office for a deposition, and to have a professional try to explain that to you, and then you want to undermine them and saying, well, but I could win, but I'm going to win, right? I can imagine there's similar things in your industry too, where you might make suggestions about how to stage a home or this, that, or the other, and everyone knows better because they have access to all of the world's libraries in one phone at any given time.
Yeah. No doubt.
That stinks about the women thing. I don't know what to say about that. That's one problem.
Well, we do see it happen, and I will say that I don't believe that women have come any further than we have since the 90s. We still are out. We still to this day, men that do the same job at us, maybe not even as well, make more money per capita.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't know why. I don't know why that would be. I feel like, I don't know. My wife's a a lot smarter than I am in a lot of ways. I would trust her, but she's not a lawyer, so.
So part I don't get it either, but that's a whole nother thing we could spend like a day talking about. But I would like to touch on just for a moment, Phil Italia. You're a part of that organization, and there is a gala coming up in November. And so, what's that about?
Yeah, so Phil Italia, and I just want to make sure that I get all the details right, because I just happen to have it in front of me, not fully expecting you to ask about it, but they're an international nonprofit Italian-American organization that was started in South Philly by a gentleman, Dr. Nestico, who came over from Italy as a doctor and has built a nice practice here, and founded this organization as kind of a bridge between Italy and America. Now it's got a bunch of chapters domestically and internationally. There's a lot in Italy, South America, but its base is in Philly. In my sort of like post-pandemic networking, during the pandemic, I got really interested in my family's immigration story. And then I thought,
where did they immigrate from?
My dad's family is the one that I was actually been able to figure out information on. And they came from Sicily, and specifically Catania, and even more specifically Santa Verina, I think it's called, which is, I forget what they call it, but it's a part of Catania, a really beautiful part based on the pictures I've seen. But I found the paperwork from Ellis Island and the ship's manifest and all this cool stuff, and I kind of went down the road of genealogy during that time. I just felt like it was a time when I turned inward and thought, to just try to see what my past actually looked like. And as a part of that, it was a natural corollary for me to say, like, oh, maybe there's some ways to use this for networking, because, I have to always be thinking about bringing in business. So I joined a couple of local Italian-American groups. I found Phil Italia, and really only maybe 2 years ago, I went to one of their events called Mangia and Mingle, and slowly I got folded in with them, and now I'm on their Delaware County board, as well as the board of this gala event, which they hold annually, and that's one of their biggest fundraising events that they do every year. And a lot of the money goes towards scholarships for students in Italy and America. A lot of the money goes towards, and it's completely nonprofit. A lot of the money goes towards language immersion programs, or there's exchange programs. So we'll take a kid for 2 weeks, we'll send a kid over there for 2 weeks, that kind of thing. And it's been around since, the 80s, and it's been successful. And so I really think that they're a good organization, especially if the Italian-American culture is something that you're into, which I am. And so, the gala is November 3rd in the afternoon at Overbrook Country Club in Villanova, a really nice spot. And I think you should come. I mean,
I think I will.
You and I talked about that a little bit.
Absolutely. I want to get back. I want to get more involved with the organization for sure. Mm-hmm. I am going to Italy at the end of August.
Do you know where your family's from?
I do. They're from a little town called Palermo, which is in about 20 minutes from Reggio, the capital. And then my grandmother, her family, my great-grandmother, Maria Elena, which is my name, she was from Genoa.
Oh, nice.
So I'm Northern Italian and Southern Italian. And I've been to Palermo and met, my great uncles.
Oh, wow.
And they all are dead now, but I'd spent time with them Everybody would live, a lot of them live till over 100 years old. And so we'll be going to visit some family in about this area called Ravenna, which is on the coast, about an hour and a half from Bologna. And then we'll go down to Puglia and then over to Calabria. And then we'll take a brief stint over to Taormina. And then we'll wrap it up in Naples.
I like Taormina.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I've been there 3 times.
I haven't. I've been there 3 times too, but not in over 10 years. I love to travel, but I got involved in building a business and didn't have money and got family and kids and all that stuff. We finally got back up to traveling. My wife and I went to Portugal last year. This year we did Ireland with the kids, which was kind of like dipping our toes in to a place that seemed a little less imposing than Italy, smaller, quainter, that kind of thing. And I think next year we're going to do Italy or Greece or something like that. But my wife likes Italy too. We both did the Temple Study Abroad program in Rome. She did it the year after I did. We didn't know each other or anything like that. But that was a really transformative experience for me, but one that I kind of put on the back burner really until the pandemic when I started thinking about, that kind of thing again.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before we wrap it up, Joe, I got 2 questions for you. You ready?
Lay it on me.
Number 1, what's your guilty pleasure?
I might plead the fifth on that. No, I don't know. Like what counts as a guilty pleasure? While I try to think of one that's
whatever you want to say.
I see a lot of live music. I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure. I don't like watch, reality TV or anything like that. My life is pretty boring, but I like to get out and get a little weird and dance with my friends and that kind of thing. So maybe that's a guilty pleasure. If I had to pick something, I guess.
Since you don't want to tell us the real one, I guess we'll have to go with that, Joe. All right.
I'm a lawyer.
See lawyers. Next question. All right. Now, you cannot answer anything about your family.
Okay.
So, what are you the most excited about your future?
Oh, yeah. Forget my family. Most excited about for my future. What am I most excited about for my future? I think just coming off traveling is traveling more. I had such a passion for it when I was in college. I took a year off after college and I lived with my buddy in a minivan and traveled around the country.
Wow.
And that was a really amazing experience and, something that I thought would kick off this life of adventure. But then I went to law school and I kind of had that stomped out of me in a lot of ways, but I'm feeling that again. I'm at a place of relative freedom with my schedule and, I'm beholden to my clients and the workload, but I have folks that I trust that handle things. And I just see, and I hope for more adventure, with kids in school, again, that dampens out, but there's bringing up my family, but still, I think just planning trips, even if it's, camping trips, I can see a nice future there where I can start to scratch those itches again. And I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I love it. Well, it was a pleasure having you on today, Joe, and the Be the Solution podcast. And thank you for sharing time with us. And I look forward to the next time I have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to have your time here as well too, because you're awesome. So that's it.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye. Thanks.